Perfect. Thank you. For those who have lost their lives in this heinous attack in Afghanistan, over 80, of course, have been killed, and for those shuhada who have given their lives, for your marhumeen and for my marhumeen, please recite Surah Fatiha. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillah. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله الذي لا يبلغ مدحته القائلون ولا يحصي نعماءه العادون ولا يؤدي حقه المجتحدون الذي لا يدركه بعد الحمم ولا يناله غوص الفطن ثم الصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين العبد المعيد الرسول المسدد المصطفى الأمجد المحمود الأحمد سيدنا ومولانا أبي القاسم محمد وعلى آل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين المظلومين لا سيما بقية الله في الأرضين صاحب العصر والزمان خليفة الرحمن إمام الإنس والجان ولعن الله أعداهم أجمعين إلى يوم الدين أما بعد فقد قال الله وقوله الحق بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم شهر رمضان الذي أنزل فيه القرآن هدى للناس وبينات من الهدى والفرقان صلوا على محمد وآل محمد. Our discussion has been revolving around lessons from the glorious Quran. We began our topic last night and we introduced, as Mustafa had mentioned, that every night, inshaAllah, the purpose and the hadaf and the maqsad is to look at one random verse every single day that I'm here with you, to get an idea of the various topics and various messages that exist in the Quran, and to do our best that across 35-40 minutes to exhaust that verse and to gain some lessons from that verse. And the purpose, of course, like I mentioned yesterday in the first half of the lecture, is to create this bridge between us and the Quran, to remove these misconceptions, to remove the breaking of this dialogue between us and the Quran. We talked about the fact that communication is key in building any relationship, be it between you and your spouse, or you and your family, or you and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Communication in Allah is in the form of salat and the Quran, where sometimes He speaks to us and we listen, and sometimes we speak and He listens. And so if we want to create this universal bond that is strong at its core, then that communication has to be two-way. And so yesterday we looked at this very important verse from Surah Hajj that we labeled the tragedy of mankind. And we talked about the fact that after Allah Himself is forcing Himself to talk about the weakness of other gods in this universe, He then says that after I have established that every other god is weak, the reality is that you, the humankind or human race, has not given me my qadr, my value, what I deserve from all of you. Ma qadar Allahu haqqa qadrihi was where we ended yesterday. And today, as we continue this theme, our next verse is from Surah Hashr. And it's up on the screen, alhamdulillah. We talk about the idea of the nasiyan of Allah, the forgetfulness of Allah. It's an ayat that I'm sure you've come across and you've heard in different lectures here at Saba. But perhaps we'll take a little bit of a different approach today. The Quran, is a book of guidance. Alif Lam Mim, ذَلِكَ الْكِتَابَ لَا رَيْبَ فِيهِ هُدًى لِلْمُتَّقِينَ. It's a book for hidayat. And sometimes it uses various avenues to guide mankind. Sometimes it uses stories. The Quran uses 200 plus stories of those that are prophets, of those that are tribes, of those that are not prophets, like Luqman, for example. And all of this purpose is not to have a fairy tale book or a book of sweet stories, but no, these are avenues and tools that Allah uses to guide mankind. In the same Quran, Allah sometimes talks to us about a group of people that we should be like, that we should emulate. For example, we have an ayat that says, Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, Inna alladhina amanu wa jahidu wa hajaru wa jahidu fi sabilillah, ulaika yarujuna rahmatullah, wallahu ghafurur rahim. A very famous verse that says, for those who have iman, those who do hijrat, who migrate, and those who do jihad, who struggle, all where? Fi sabilillah, on the path of Allah, there are people, yarjuna rahmatullah. There are people who can expect the mercy of Allah. So right away, of course, the Quran says you can do your best to be like those people. And then there are moments where the Quran is specific about being a certain person in the Quran. Surah Tahrim, for example, talks about the various wives of various prophets and gives the example of the wife of Fir'aun. ضرب الله مثلا للذين آمنوا امرأة فرعون. That for those who have iman, we've given the example of the wife of Fir'aun, Bibi Asiya. And then there are moments like this verse, where Allah is asking us not to be like a certain people, to not emulate their path, to learn from their mistakes, to not be like those who end up in this state, as this verse talks about, where it says, وَلَا تَكُونُوا كَالَّذِينَ نَسُوا اللَّهُ أَنفُسَهُمْ أُولَٰئِكَ هُمُ الْفَاسِقُونَ. Do not be like those that have forgotten Allah to the point where they have, or He has made them forget about themselves. They are truly the fasiqs. They are truly those who are the transgressors. Now, we understand the idea of forgetting about Allah. We are sinful people. We're not ma'soom. We make mistakes, we turn back to Him. We make mistakes, we turn back to Him. This is the reality of our iman. It's up and down like a seesaw. That part makes sense to us. But this connection between forgetting Allah and then He making us forget about ourselves, what does that mean? How can one forget about themselves? To avoid being a fasiq. Let me also very briefly in the beginning talk about the idea of who a fasiq is. Because sometimes we have this false confidence in our iman. We believe that once we believe, we can't lure ourselves off the path. A fasiq is one who was guided first, and then he was misguided. Or he made a wrong turn, a wrong choice in life, and now he's treading a life that's away from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Right? We have come across many people in our lives, I'm sure, who mashallah were of the pious ones, the muttaqi ones, the God-conscious ones, the God-fearing ones. And then this dunya throws its test at them, either through an illness or a tragedy or a difficulty, or not having a job that you want, or not marrying the person that you want, whatever the case may be. And then it gets to the point where the first attack is on the deen themselves. A lot of our youth go through that. They test out the deen, right? They follow the deen a little bit. They see, okay, what benefits are there? And the moment that this dunya throws its first test at them, they think this is the cause of being righteous and pious. So they throw the deen out the window and say, forget this, I tried my best. If this is the result, then I don't want it. So many people are like this in this dunya, unfortunately. And some of us have this false confidence that no, as long as I believe in La ilaha illallah, I believe in Muhammad Rasulullah, I believe in Ghadir, I believe in Karbala, so I'm safe. Shaitan won't come and attack me. The same Quran has a beautiful dua that I recite every salat in my qunut. That what? Rabbana la tuzigh qulubana when? Ba'da idh hadaytana. Look at the wording of the Quran. Oh Allah, do not allow this misguidance, this uncleanliness to enter my heart ba'da idh hadaytana, after you've already guided us. Meaning you've already guided us, you've already shown us the path, we've sung the bait to the path, and yet we're begging Allah, do not let us deviate from that path. That's why us, the followers of the Maktab of the Ahlul Bayt, when we translate Ihdina as-Sirat al-Mustaqim, we don't say guide me to the right path. We don't say that. We're already alhamdulillah on the right path. We say what? Keep me guided on the right path. There's a big difference between the two. Right? So we're talking about avoiding this area inside of our life where now we remove ourselves from this iman. You know, a man approaches Imam Ali alayhi salatu wassalam. Wallahu salatu ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad, please. And this is a hadith that I often narrate, especially in youth sessions. And I want my youth out there who are here tonight to understand this very carefully. It requires an explanation. If I have time, I'll go through it. If not, we'll go through the ayat a little bit more. A man approaches our first imam and begins to complain about their life. I have health problems. I have money problems. I have house problems. I have this, I have that problems. He's coming, you know, his heart of his heart, he's letting it out in front of his imam. And the imam of his time, Imam Ali, listens to him, and at the end of his complaint, he says, Inshallah, I'll pray for you. Now, can you imagine if you and I had that moment with Imam Zamana, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, where the Imam says, okay, I'll give you 15 minutes, and we're sitting right across from Imam Zamana inside some house or some office or some room, and for 15 minutes, we simply empty our heart onto our Imam, and our Imam in turn says to us that I'll pray for you. I would be ecstatic. I'm sure all of you would too. That's all I need is for the Imam of my time to pray for me. This man comes back to Imam Ali a week after and complains more. And says that not only are those problems from before still there, but now I have fresh problems. I have this, I have that, I have this, I have that. There are some people, mashallah, who are kings and queens are complaining in this dunya. Nothing ever goes right for them. Even when things go right, it's because of something else, negative, not because of something positive. The glass is always half empty for them, not half full. Imam Ali then becomes annoyed, the hadith says. And he says to this man, listen very carefully, he says to this man that you are expecting from this dunya what it can't give you. Instead of you asking and begging me and Allah for a stress-free life, ask Allah, beg Allah that through my hardships, my iman stays intact. It's an important message. You know, the example I often give is that of a swimming pool. When you first approach a swimming pool and the water is still, the water and the pool seems very clean to you. On the surface, you don't see any dirt. When someone like me jumps in the pool and half the water comes out, then the water starts to crash against the sides of the pool. And that dirt that was residing at the bottom of the pool begins to float to the top. And what you once believed to be a very clean pool is now in fact a very dirty pool. We're no different when it comes to ourselves. When life is going very smoothly, we believe that I'm good, man. My iman is strong. The moment that the waters of our heart and life begin to ruffle a little bit, then we begin to realize how much sometimes nifaq and kufr and shirk exist inside of our hearts. And that begins to float to the top, and we start spewing words out, challenging Allah. How dare you, God? Is this how you thank me, God? I'm the president of Saba. I'm the chairlady of Saba. I'm the principal of Saba Academy. I'm the head of the youth. I open and close this place. I cook every single day. And now you thank me by taking my wife away from me, by giving me cancer, by by stripping me from my job. Is this how you thank one of your servants? Have we not come across that? Or God forbid, have we not said these words? Albeit out of anger, out of frustration. But that's that dirt, that kasifi from the bottom of our heart that sometimes floats to the top. And usually when we're going through the storm is where we lose our iman. You know, my parents out there, I don't mean to be the bearer of bad news. I don't mean to be Mr. Negativity. But there's a movement right now going on where a lot of our youth, a lot of your kids are questioning the very base of the deen. And they're starting with Allah. There are people now, there are youth now who are bold, they're brave, who come out on Facebook and social media and denounce their deen, announce them to be non-Muslim anymore. From tomorrow, I'm atheist. There used to be a time where I used to get phone calls from parents that say, my kid doesn't pray salat, can you come and talk to him? My kid doesn't come to the center on Thursday nights, can you come and talk to him? My kid doesn't want to marry his first cousin back home, can you come talk to him? Now I get phone calls saying that my kid today says that I no longer believe in Allah. I don't believe in Imam Zamana. I'm agnostic. I'm atheist. I'm this and that. And they'll tell their parents, and then they'll post a nice fat message on social media, and they'll wait for the responses. And the replies, mashallah, from their own believing family and friends is like, you're an inspiration to me. I wish I was free like you. And their number one complaint is that I'm tired of being the ambassador of Islam in this Islamophobia-ridden society. I wear hijab in my school. I wear hijab in my work. I have a nice beard, a Sayyid name. I pray salat. I ask for extended time on Salat al-Jum'ah. And now I have to answer questions about travel bans, about ISIS, about Saudi, about Wahhabism, about all these things. And I don't want to be the ambassador of the deen. I don't want the headache. I barely get up for Fajr, let alone be the flagship bearer of the deen of Islam. So I say tata to the deen. I don't want the deen anymore. It takes one person, 2 people, 5 people to come out boldly and say that I don't understand Allah, I don't understand God, and so let me move on. You know, we have as parents, and I'm the parent of 3 children. I'm with you now. Gone are the days where I can include myself as a child. No, I'm a parent now. And it scares me when I think about my 9-year-old. But gone are those days where we have become obsessed with trying to prove why we are Shia. And our discussion on Islam, and I say this with the utmost respect to all of you, starts from Ghadir, doesn't start before Ghadir. And so we have Shia youth, mashallah, who can debate a Sunni brother on Ghadir, on Ashura, on Matam, on Azadari, on Imam Zamana, until they're blue in the face. You ask that same Shia youth to debate an atheist about Allah, and they're lost. They don't know how to prove Allah to themselves, forget anybody else. And so now when I go to that same house and say, look, can you pray salat, please? The answer that they tell me right to my face is that I wish I knew who I was praying to so I can begin to pray. Because we've taken for granted, or we believe that, look, I've dropped my kid off on Sundays for 1 hour of Islamic studies or diniyat or whatever you want to call it, and I've done my job, and now alhamdulillah he is Mr. Tawheed. We don't understand that there are attacks happening on these kids from every angle possible. inside their high school, inside the university, until they absolutely blow up and say, forget it. I don't understand God. I don't want God. Khudafis, I don't want to even worship Him. And that's when they announce to be agnostic and all these nice little hashtag words they like to use nowadays. They have no idea what the meaning is. But this is a reality. And sometimes it's important to go back to the basics. Now I remember I was learning a book of Shaheed Sadr rahmatullah alayh with one of my teachers in the Hawza. And this man knew this book inside and out. Page numbers, paragraph, top right, top left, index, everything. I said, Ustad, how many times have you read this book? He says, 25 times I've read this one book. I said, why would you waste your time? He said, when you believe in something, when you begin to know something, know it to the point where you are now referencing page numbers with your eyes closed. If you're going to say La ilaha illallah, you're going to enter the circle of Tawheed, then enter fully. At that moment, then constantly work at it. How many of my youth have done any reading on Allah? And I don't mean to be, Mr. Bashing. But the reality is that now the resources at your fingertips are not like even at my time. And the deen requires us to be completely inside, right? I mean, the example I give is that, we have children sometimes in some halls that run inside the hall and outside the hall, inside the hall, outside the hall. The door opens, the door closes, the door opens, the door, until one uncle grabs him. Usually Muzaffar uncle grabs him, right? And says, look, either you're in the speech or you're out of the speech. Pick one. Allah says the exact same thing to us. Either you're in the deen or you're out of the deen. This buffet system where I choose what I want, what I like, and I leave what I don't like. I pick the steak up and I leave the salad. Is not the system of the deen. If we're in for all of it. We're in for the glory days. We're in for those difficult times right now where Islam requires you to be the ambassador you need to be. To rid us of this filth of Saudi and God knows what else. It's only a matter of time. And then we can celebrate, inshallah, our victory. But that's what it requires us to do. If we're not ready for that, we have to search inside of us to think, why am I in this deen to begin with? If I can't be an ambassador. It got serious in here all of a sudden, didn't it? Recite Salat ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad, please. So we will not become those who forget about Allah, because the effect of it is that He'll make us forget about ourselves. And to give you an example of what that means, let me give you a very simple example. I don't live in San Jose. I'm from Toronto. I don't know the roads here. I know enough to know 237, and then you get off at First, and you make a right at North Tech, and you go past this street, and then a right on Fortran, and you're in the back of the building. That much I know. If I get lost, I'll make my way back to Saba somehow, inshallah. But I don't know anything else. Now, if one of you, some of you, mashallah, invite me one day, someday, for some tea, God forbid, then... Not on Ramadan, don't worry. I'm only kidding. And you'll ask me, do you know where I live? I say, I don't know where I live. He'll say, okay, here are the keys to the car. Follow my example, please. Follow me. And then we, inshallah, will end up at my house. I said, no problem, brother, I'll follow you. Now, this person who I'm following, mashallah, he drives like my brother Mason drives. If you know how Mason drives, he thinks that he's always in an IndyCar race. He's going through at 80, mashallah, miles an hour, 90 miles an hour, and here me, bichare badbakht, is trying to keep up with him somehow. I have no idea where I'm going. So long as I'm behind Mason, I'm okay. The moment I lose Mason, I'm gone, I'm lost. I have no idea where I'm going. Please follow the example very carefully. Now on the highway, on the 880, for example, Mason is long gone, mashallah, I have no idea where I'm going. He mentioned to me a couple of states, some city limits, some zip codes. So now I do my best to come up with what I think is the right area. And the margin of error for me to get lost, now all of a sudden has doubled. So long as I'm with Mason, I won't get lost. Mason knows where he's going, and I trust Mason. Now Mesa, mashallah, is long gone. I have no idea where I'm going. I'm relying on what I think is right. A left here, a right here, a go here, a go here. And the chances of me getting completely lost off the path have now doubled, if not tripled. So long as we are following Allah's commands and following the path that He's laid down for us, we're fine. The moment that we begin to steer off, or the moment that we begin to create this distance between us and Allah, is when our margin of gumrahi and misguidance increases. Now the example is that Mason took off on me. But in Allah's example, He stays where He is. We either slow down or we go bolting past Allah sometimes. And we end up forming two types of religions. Please follow me very carefully. Ayatollah Jawadi Amali talks about what's called the deen of the khayal and the deen of the kitab in Farsi. That deen that we think inside of our head is Islam, and what actually Islam is inside the books. Just now, in the very first 2 days of the month of Ramadan, I was in Toronto, in my home center, before I came here. And there, like here, we have about a 17-hour fast. And there was a man who comes to me, an older gentleman, I know him very well, very respectful man, comes to me and says, you know, Moulana, when Allah made fasting wajib on us, I don't think He meant these 17-hour fasts. This is too much. How do you expect people to survive and go to work and somehow live their life for 30 days on a 17-hour fast? I said, brother, with all due respect, we belong to a lunar calendar. There was moments years ago where we had fasted in the winter time, where that fast now was 10 hours. I don't remember you telling me back then that this is too short of a fast. He said, no. The way the winter fasts are, that's how it should be in the Sharia. And I think, and I tell you, he was dead serious. He says, I think if you can go back to the Hawza and figure out some average hours of fasting, I think 12 to 13 is doable. Let me know what happens. I said, okay, I'll let you know what happens, inshallah. And while it's comical, and maybe he was joking, this reality exists inside of our society. This idea of now the deen being outdated, this new generation of ours using words like progressive Islam, using words like we need to be a little bit more inclusive, or the Sharia was good for the desert of Muhammad, not for the city here I live in, where khums is, God forbid, na'udhu billah, a money laundering system of the Maraji, where marjiyat is now outdated. Some marja in the east living in a cave can't tell me what to do here in the west. He hasn't stepped foot in the Bay Area. How could he even feel my pain? And all these things one by one are being challenged by the generation that believes that their deen in their mind is the right deen. And that deen in Muhammadi, that deen in Nab, that deen in Kitabi is outdated. This is why Imam Hussein, alayhi salatu wassalam, salat ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad, please. He describes the deen of Islam during or just before the arrival of our Imam. And he uses the example of a glass of water. He says, when the Prophet of Allah came, al-yawm akmalta lakum deenakum, when he perfected the deen, the glass of water was full, right to the top, of pure, clean, delicious water. He says, that same glass before the arrival of our son Mahdi will be reduced to trickles and drops of the water inside of it. Remnants of that deen will survive around the inside of the actual glass. The water will be long gone. A lot of our youth ask us about this hadith that they hear, that when the Imam comes, he'll bring a new deen, a new sharia, To the point where they'll ask us, are we not belonging to the same deen and same sharia as the imam? We are. But we have watered down that deen to the point where it's now unrecognizable to Imam Zamana. Because of this deen khayal. You know, Moulana, I believe that the hijab right now is actually hurting the deen. I believe right now, Moulana, that this khums can be used somewhere else. I believe right now that we are aqil human beings. Allah gave us aql and reasoning and logic. We don't need to rely on the marajih to tell us what to do. And some of us have this bold nature to actually come out and say it. A lot of us have these whisperings inside of our heart and we think it. And that's when we've separated ourselves away from Allah and the margin of error now has increased. I have no idea where I'm going on the 880, so I make a left where I think is right, I make a right where I think it's right, and lo and behold, I create what I want to create. Mason is long gone. Allah is long gone. That's why many times we talk about this journey, وَإِلَيْهِ يُرْجَعُونَ, and you return back to Allah. It's not a physical journey. It's a mental journey where sometimes our thought and our khayal has steered away from Allah. Then when we get our act together, when we ask Allah for tawbah and forgiveness, that khayal, that mind takes us back to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I ask my youth out there, the deen of Islam is the most beautiful system out there of any religion, any lifestyle. If you believe it to be outdated, not present, not 2017, then your understanding of the deen or the way the deen has been presented to you has not been accurate. Do yourself a favor, do the deen a favor, and come to the right sources to understand the deen. I'll give you a very simple example. Before that, one loud salawat ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad, please. The example is a very beautiful one, a very simple one. All of you with me, inshallah? Yes? Alhamdulillah. We used to have, in my class in the Hawza in Qom, students from Kashmir. And if you've been to Kashmir, I haven't, but if you've been to Kashmir, I've heard that it's Jannat on earth. It's a very beautiful place. Mountains and rivers and streams and... I want you to imagine that there is this town that lives on the base of a mountain. If you get this example, then I'm happy. And the water that right now exists inside the town. So I want you to picture that in the middle of the town is a beautiful stream of water. On each side of the stream are houses. So you open the door and your front lawn is a stream of water. It's beautiful, right? There's actually towns in Kashmir like that. You follow the trace of the water back up to the mountain where it springs from the mountain. Fresh, beautiful, clean water. You can drink it, you can do wudu with it, you can look through it. Now I want you to imagine that you are now visiting this place and you're looking at it, you're taking pictures, mashallah, selfies, everything is there. And then you see a few houses down. Somebody opens their front door, takes their garbage lid and dumps it inside the water. And then you see another house, another house, another house. You come back years later, what was once a beautiful stream of water is now a garbage dump. And you have no idea where the garbage begins and where the water begins. And you want to understand the beauty of that town and the beauty of that water. And you're searching in that garbage, in that water, you're searching for drops of clean water. Just drops of it. Maybe this drop, maybe this corner, maybe that corner. Follow the example, please. Until you have completely searched up and down this water and you convince yourself this water is not clean, was never clean, will not be clean. It serves no purpose to me. I can't drink it. I can't wash myself in it. I can't do anything. The best thing is to walk past it and forget about it and search for another stream of water. Until someone tells you, if you want to know the beauty of the water, don't look in the town. Go back and trace the water from its original source. Climb up the mountain, find that rock from where that stream is pouring out of, and enjoy the asli water from there. Unfortunately, this movement of ISIS, this Wahhabi Takfiri sect right now, that's being fed and being raised as a child, has hijacked the deen and has dumped its garbage inside its beautiful waters. To the point where our youth can't find the beauty of Islam anymore. To the point where our youth now question the beauty of Islam. And I ask you, before you walk away from that stream, climb up the mountain and go back to the Quran and the Ahlul Bayt, which is that spring that's moving forward from that rock. And revive the beauty of the water inside of you. Understand that the beauty has been tainted by those who don't know. But it does not tell us that there is no beautiful water left. It is. The source of it has to change. Stop understanding the deen from media and start understanding the deen from thaqalain, the two weighty things the Prophet left behind. There's a reason why he says, so long as you bring these two together, you will never be misguided. We have to revive that source inside of us, and then inshallah inside of our children as well. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. Now, how do we do that? We have to ensure that we are closely connected to Allah. Okay, and just this last point I want to make before we wrap up, inshallah. Talking a little bit about enslavement. This joke that goes around in the West sometimes, it talks about ultimate freedom. Where these countries and these governments are inside certain countries, invading that country, bulldozing that country, destroying that country, to create freedom inside that country. And they believe that freedom is absolute. Whereas the Quran talks about the idea and it compares those individuals who have multiple masters to those who have one master. It doesn't even entertain the idea that you are without a master. So all of us are enslaved. All of us are in an abd. The question is, who is your master? Now the beauty of being a slave of Allah, and many of our youth ask us, again, this is a bold generation, and I love you guys for it, as long as you accept the answer. In Toronto sometimes, we sit there in coffee shops till 2 o'clock in the morning discussing God and Imam Ali and Imam Zamana, and and we debate. We give them dalil upon dalil, proof upon proof, ayat, hadith, logic, everything. After 2-3 hours and many, many coffees later, they'll tell me that, okay, I'll think about it, I'll get back to you. So while I love the idea that they're bold and they ask questions, this ghurur that they have sometimes, to not always accept what's in front of them, is what they need to work on. Many of them ask us, what is the benefit of me becoming a slave of Allah? I don't see that instant gratification. Becoming a slave of Allah is the ultimate freedom, and I'll explain to you why. When you become a slave of anything else but Allah in this world, be it money or fame or prestige or yourself, then that's bound to create this disgusting nature inside of you. Either you're hungry for power, either you worship yourself, either you replace love and family with money. Whatever the case may be, any other master besides Allah will create this animal inside of you. Allah is the only master where He will create freedom inside of you. Why? Because He is the only master that's not in need of His slave. Oh. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Ya ayyuhan nas, antum fuqara'u ila Allah. Wallahu huwal ghaniyyul hamid. O mankind, you are somebody who is a faqir when it comes to me. You are constantly in need. And me, Allah, huwa al-ghaniyyu al-hamid. He's needless. Meaning what? If you're searching for the master, he is the only master where he asks the slave to do this and do that and do this, but that doesn't benefit the master. Every other master says, slave do this to benefit him. Slave do this to benefit him. Slave do that to benefit him. But when Allah says to fast, to pray, give khums, do taqleed, it has no benefit to Allah. He is Azal, He is Abad. He is the only master in this entire universe that is asking the slave to do A, B, and C for the slave's benefit. So the more you enslave yourself to Allah, the more free you become. Do you need more benefit than that in this land of the free and home of the brave? Where we're searching for freedom, we're destroying countries for freedom, and all of us want to be free. There's no doubt we want to be free. That's why Imam Ali, and I'll lead this hadith with you, says there's no bigger source of pride for me, he says. Who is this? This is the man of Badr and Uhud, of Khaybar, of Ghadir, of Siffin and Jamal. This was the man who says, Fustu Rabbil Kaaba. There is easily moments of pride for Imam Ali that are countless. But he says the highest source of pride for me is that I am and I have chosen to be your abd, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Because with that comes my development, my taraqi, my elevation, my peace-raft. Everything is elevation inside of me. That's why in khutbah hammam, khutbah muttaqi, that I know all of you have discussed several times here in Saba, when he talks to hammam, the very first thing he says to hammam is, hammam, know that whatever Allah decrees for you as wajib or makes something haram for you, it's absolutely not for his benefit. It's not like if I decide to be more muttaqi, he becomes more Allah tomorrow. Or if I decide, God forbid, to leave the path, he becomes less Allah. Where we are and what we do and what we don't do has no impact on his kingdom. He makes everything wajib for our benefit. So my brothers and my sisters, in this verse, Allah's warning us that if you want to hold on to yourself, hold on to me. If you want to forget about yourself and your freedoms, forget about me. But let's not be like those individuals. Otherwise we become who? We become the fasiq. That Allah grants hidayat, and through our nadani and our ghaflat and our heedlessness, we remove that hidayat from our own selves. We ask you, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to accept our qaleel ibadat, inshaAllah. We ask you, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that in these trying times that you guide our youth, you forgive the sins of our elders, inshaAllah, and you prepare us for the arrival of Imam al-Zamana, inshaAllah. Recite one salat ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad, please. There's a question here. I don't have time, sister. I'm sorry. It's 1 minute before Adhan. Inshallah, if you could see me afterwards, inshallah, I'll do my best to answer the question. Thank you very much. Wassalamu alaikum.